Greetings, friends of the universe. Today we are going to discuss the 7 Hermetic principles who can completely transform your life. Let's start. Hermeticism is an ancient spiritual, philosophical, and esoteric tradition. This great conscious expanding teachings are created by Hermes Trismegistus, known by the ancient Egyptians as the Master of Masters. All fundamental and basic occult and esoteric teachings can be traced back to Hermes. You can really open up a deep exploration of yourself and esoteria by diving into this great, ancient mystical teachings. Hermes Trismegistus, Greek for Hermes the thrice greatest, was known in the Egyptian mythology as the god Thoth, and in the Greek mythology as the god Hermes. This mysterious being was known to have lived in ancient Egypt before he was revered as a god. He was the first great Egyptian philosopher and founder of the ancient mystery schools. Thoth was considered to be the one who gave us writing, numbers, and the arts of self-cultivation through works of consciousness. It is said that he was receiving his wisdom while in deep meditative trances, writing over 40 books, including allegedly the Emerald Tablet, the Book of Thoth, and the Divine Pymander. It is said that the Book of Thoth reveals the secrets of the universe and the process achieved through awakening certain areas of the brain. It contains secret knowledge of the incarnation process and many other universal secrets. Only priests with special training were allowed access to Thoth's sacred knowledge. Imhotep, builder of the first pyramid, was one of them. No one knows where is the Book of Thoth, but some actually considered that the Book of Thoth is in the astral plane and not a physical thing, but something that you had to actually travel in your consciousness. This is probably one of those very old incidences of channeling, where an individual would get into a special state of mind, contact the universal knowledge or the source. The topics that Hermes Trismegistus covered ranged from medicine, chemistry, law, art, music, rhetoric, magic, philosophy, geography. To the Egyptians, his knowledge was so vast that they first began to credit him as the communicator with the gods. It is unknown whether Hermes Trismegistus was a real person or more of an idea, but whatever the case, Hermeticism has become a fundamental teaching which stands in the roots of all religions, esoteric, spiritual, and occult practices. In Hermeticism, there are 7 Hermetic principles which contain basic truths about the world, the laws of the universe, wisdom, and everything that governs our material and spiritual life. Knowing these 7 principles, these universal laws, shall open your insights to the deeper spiritual nature of reality. The universe exists in perfect harmony by the virtue of these laws. Once you understand, apply, and align yourself with these universal laws, you will experience transformation in every area of your life beyond that which you have ever dared to imagine. The 7 Hermetic principles I'll give to you are from the mysterious volume called the Kybalion, written by the 3 initiates. The Kybalion contains the essence of the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, and these teachings were passed on from teacher to student for thousands of years. Here are the 7 Hermetic principles. Number 1. The principle of mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances, which we know under the terms of the material universe. And in short, all that is apparent to our material senses is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universal, infinite, living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world, or universe, is simply a mental creation of the all. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which, without such explanation, are not understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. Number 2. The principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. The old Hermetic axiom ran in these words: as above, so below, and the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many dark paradoxes and hidden secrets of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It is an universal law. The ancient Hermetists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown. Number 3. The principle of vibration. Nothing is resting, everything is moving, everything vibrates. This principle embodies the truth that all things in the universe are in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet, this Hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains that the differences between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result largely from varying rates of vibration. From the all, which is pure spirit, down to the grossest form of matter, all is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. The vibration of spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it is practically at rest, just as a rapidly moving wheel seems to be motionless. And at the other end of the scale, there are gross forms of matter, whose vibrations are so low as to seem resting. Between these poles, there are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration, from corpuscle and electron and molecule to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true on the planes of energy and force, which are varying degrees of vibration, and also on the mental planes, whose states depend upon vibrations, and even onto the spiritual planes. An understanding of this principle with the appropriate formulas, enables Hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others. The masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power. Number 4. The principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. This principle embodies the truth that everything is dual, everything has two poles, everything has its pair of opposites, all of which were old Hermetic axioms. It explains the old paradoxes that have perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows. Differing thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Extremes meet. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half-truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything. It explains that in everything there are two poles or opposite aspects, and that opposites are really only the two extremes of the same thing, with many varying degrees between them. To illustrate heat and cold, although opposites are really the same thing, the differences consisting merely of degrees of the same thing. There is no such thing as absolute heat or absolute cold. The two terms, heat and cold, simply indicate varying degrees of the same thing, and that same thing, which manifests as heat and cold, is merely a form, variety, and rate of vibration. The same principle manifests in the case of light and darkness, which are the same thing, the difference consisting of varying degrees between the two poles of the phenomena. What is the difference between large and small, between hard and soft, between black and white? The principle of polarity explains these paradoxes, and no other principle can supersede it. The same principle operates on the mental plane. Let us take a radical and extreme example: love and hate. Two mental states, apparently totally different. And yet, there are degrees of hate and degrees of love, and a middle point, in which we use the terms like or dislike, which shade into each other so gradually that sometimes we are at a loss to know whether we like or dislike or neither. And all are simply degrees of the same thing, as you will see if you think a moment. And more than this, it is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others. Many of you who read these lines have had personal experiences of the involuntary rapid transition from love to hate, and the reverse in your own case and that of others. And you will therefore realize the possibility of this being accomplished by the use of the will, by means of the Hermetic formulas. An understanding of the principle will enable one to change his own polarity, as well as that of others, if he will devote the time and study necessary to master the art. Number 5. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. This principle embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measured motion, to and from, a flow, an inflow, a swing backward and forward, a high tide and low tide between the two poles, which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago. There is always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe. This law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally, in the mental states of man. The Hermetists have grasped this principle finding its universal application, and have also discovered certain means to overcome its effects in themselves by the use of the appropriate formulas and methods. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they have learned how to escape its effects upon themselves to a certain degree, depending upon the mastery of the principle. They have learned how to use it instead of being used by it. In this methods consists the art of the Hermetists. The master of Hermetics polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously, but the master does this consciously and by the use of his will attains a degree of poise and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of the masses who are swung backward and forward like a pendulum. This principle and that of polarity have been closely studied by the Hermetists and the methods of counteracting, neutralizing, and using them. Number 6. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect, an effect from every cause. It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance, that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower planes, still nothing ever entirely escapes the law. The Hermetists understand the art and methods of rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree, and by mentally rising to a higher plane, they become causers instead of effects. The masses of people are carried along, obedient to environment, the wills and desires of others, stronger than themselves, heredity, suggestion, and other outward causes, moving them like pawns on the chessboard of life. But the masters, rising to the plane above, dominate their moods, characters, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them. They help to play the game of life instead of being played and moved about by other wills and environment. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The masters obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. Number 7. The principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything. The masculine and feminine principles ever at work. This is true not only of the physical plane, but of the mental and even the spiritual planes. On the physical plane, the principle manifests as a sex, genders. On the higher planes, it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, physical, mental, or spiritual, is possible without this principle. An understanding of its laws will throw light on many subjects that has perplexed the minds of men. The principle of gender works ever in the direction of generation, regeneration, and creation. Everything and every person contains the two elements or principles. Every male thing has the female element also. Every female contains also the male principle. If you would understand the philosophy of mental and spiritual creation, generation, and regeneration, you must understand and study this Hermetic principle. It contains the solution of many mysteries of life. These were the 7 Hermetic principles. It is important to know and internalize these principles. However, it is even more important to apply the essence of this knowledge in your daily life and make it an integral part of your thoughts and actions. Understand the inherent tools of these principles that can help you to change your life. Knowledge itself is useless. The mere accumulation of knowledge of all kinds of subjects and topics can become meaningful if it is not essential for your personal development and if you do not apply, internalize, and live it. Wisdom is applied knowledge, and mastery can only be achieved by continuous application of the principles. You can feel and control your state of vibration. By mastering your personal vibrational state, you can change all other aspects in your life. With your conscious thought and the principle of correspondence working for you, it is your inner vibrational state or frequency that can transform your inner and outer world. You can actively go into resonance to unconditional love and peace and feel this vibration within yourself, transforming the world around you. It is very important to understand all of the principles and the way they work. And in the next step, it is even more important to use the principle of vibration as your most powerful tool on your way to mastery in the physical realm of matter. Each insight that is not lived and applied is just another possibility to recede from the truth and the path to achieve mastery. Therefore, radical action is required on your way to become your greatest version. With this in mind, we should focus on the principle of vibration as a tool to feel and alter our conscious awareness of our inner vibrational state. Applying this knowledge wisely will help us on our way to achieve mastery in this physical reality. Thank you for watching. Please give us a like and join our spiritual kingdom by clicking the subscribe button.